Welcome to the PostalMate webinar, PostalMate for Newbies. My name is Karen Grant and I'll be your instructor today. You have on your computer a dashboard where you have a question and answer panel. You're welcome to ask any questions you want during the webinar. Sometimes I see them during the webinar and we'll stop and address them, but many times I'll wait till the end of the webinar and address them at that time. Remember, you're all newbies. This invitation only goes out to those people who are new in the industry or looking at our industry. So it's a very small and select group of people that we send this invitation to each month. Therefore, no question is foolish or stupid. Every question is important. You're looking at spending probably a good chunk of your life savings in this investment in a business, and you deserve to have answers to your questions, and you deserve to be able to ask those questions, and we're here for you. We're not only software support, but we help you as much as we can in the industry as a whole. Many of our employees at our company, and especially our leadership group, have been former store owners, so we know what it's like in your shoes, myself included. I'm the Vice President of Business Development, but I had 3 stores for 25 years. So I'm a veteran in the industry and I'm happy to help you in any way that I can. We're going to get started now. First thing you need to know about PostalMate is that you need to have supported hardware. We have a select amount of hardware that we're able to support. Of course, there's a million scales, a million printers, and all these other things out there, but we've selected those that are appropriate for our industry and legal for trade. And that's really important because not all scales, for example, are legal for trade, and we wouldn't want you to get in any trouble with your state weights and measures department. So we do have specific hardware that we use in this industry. You'll need to make sure that you're staying current. If you're buying an existing store, do find out how old the computers are. We typically, it's typical in a store to have one master computer and then anywhere between 1 and 3 or so auxiliary or slave computers. And that's pretty normal. Your master computer should be less than 5 years old at all times. The auxiliary stations can certainly be a little bit older. We generally recommend that once every 4 years or so, that you replace the master workstation and make that workstation an auxiliary station and just slide them down. That way you're always staying relatively current. We never ask you to go out and spend a lot of money. We know that money's always tight and a concern in any small business in the world. So we want you to be wise with your money, and we don't want to cause any additional expenses on your behalf. Training opportunities, lots of training opportunities out there. So our website has some of the best training opportunities, and it has tech notes, about 100 and something odd tech notes, has many, many videos that are very short. Our videos are very specific topic-wise. They can be anywhere from 15 or 20 seconds to 2 or 3 minutes. That's typically how long they last. And it's just like how to set blah, and you pick whatever the blah is, or how to adjust this, or how to add this. And those types of things are all on those videos. And we have numerous, I'm gonna say 75, 80 of them, probably being conservative there now. And then we have the webinars like this. Now, this is a newbie webinar that we typically do once a month. I do it on average 10 times a year. And we will record one of those and have it posted on our website in case somebody needs it right away or needs to go back and refer. So while this particular webinar, you won't be receiving in an email or anything, a newbies webinar very much like this, where I generally say almost the same things, is posted on our website should you need to see something again. And then we have live trainings that we do also, and those we do them regionally. And being that it's the end of the year now, or near the end of the year, we're focusing on 2023 trainings. So I can tell you that we will be in Orlando, Florida during the first quarter of the year. The dates will be announced later this year. And then in Southern California towards the end of the year next year. And then we will be at the RS Expo, which is the biggest industry event available to us. And that's in Dallas, and that's going to be late summer, early fall. I don't think they've exactly announced it, but I'm guessing around September time. And that will be a 3 or 4 day event. We come in, we teach about, I don't know, anywhere between 10 and 15 classes, but all the vendors are there. It's really a wonderful way to participate and network with other store owners. And typically they have 400 or 500 store owners that come to that event. So that's your best opportunity to meet the vendors, meet the people at UPS, FedEx, DHL, et cetera, and get to know what other stores are doing to make money in this industry. So very worthwhile attending. Communication, when you sign up with us, you give us your email and all that other stuff. But when you get your store started, you may change emails, you may change phone numbers and have a new store phone number and stuff. Make sure that we have that information so we have your good contact. We don't sell anything but PostalMate. So we're not going to market to you constantly about wanting to buy other things. We don't have any other things to sell you. Once you buy, you get PostalMate. That's all there is. So we don't have any junk email that goes to you. Every email that we send to you is really important. So for example, let's say it's December 12th and all of a sudden you can't ship FedEx or ship UPS. Well, you think something's wrong with the software or with what you're doing or your computer, but it may be that the carrier server is down. And when we see things like that happen, especially if we see it's going to be longer than a couple of minutes, we will email you and let you know that, yes, we're aware, we've reached out to them. We will notify you if we get an ETA on when that will be fixed. Now, I don't want you thinking this happens every December or anything, but it's been known to happen, just so you're aware. And the carrier servers, a carrier server probably goes down on average once every 6 weeks, maybe once every 4 weeks, to be honest. Sometimes it's only for 5 minutes. It's not a huge deal. It's inconvenient at the moment, but sometimes it's been as long as almost a full day. So you need to be aware of those things. So anything, urgent or industry related, new webinars, new things that have come up, new regulations you need to be aware of, new rules, new rates, all those kinds of things, we will email you and let you know. So we want you to have a good email address with us so we can keep you informed. And then to get the best support, our support team is phenomenal. We answer, I'm going to say, close to 70% now of all calls live. And then if it's not live, then you'll either get a voicemail or you can email us. Now, I will tell you that if we are not answering it live, it might be because one of those servers are down and everybody's calling us at once, right? Or sometimes like AT&T goes down, or Cox Communications goes down, and so everybody's internet in that area goes down, and so all of a sudden they'll call us thinking that something's wrong. Well, it's their internet. But anyway, things like that happen, and so we do get occasionally backed up in support. Email is magic. If you email us with your question, hey, I'm not being able to ship a label, blah blah blah, something going on, we can fire back an email much faster than we can call you back. So email is really magic, especially if you tell us what the issue is. Our support team has gotten so big that we have specialists now. So if you need help with maybe installing a new printer, we have printer specialists. If you need help immediately with an international situation with the customer standing there and there's an address situation or problem with the customs form or something, we have international specialists. So telling us what your issue is in that voicemail or email really helps us to get the right person to get you the best support. Usually you get a response back within just a few minutes. Just bear in mind that it is not first come, first serve. So if you call us and you need to know how to run a certain report, and the next person calls us and says, hey, I can't ship, something's wrong, the person that called that can't ship will come before the report issue. And that's how it should be. Just like if you're at the hospital, the worse off you are, the quicker you get service, right? So we want to make sure that you're handled immediately so that you're successful in your business. All right, we're going to be going through the basics of PostalMate today, but I want you to know that we're not even touching the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, with what PostalMate can offer you. So we want you to be aware of the different things available to you, and please, as you migrate into this, you can start looking at these more and more. If you're buying an existing store or have purchased an existing store, then you're probably already using several of these features in your store and you need to get up to speed on them. But if you're just starting out, some of these features you won't even need to worry about right away and you can grow into them. So make sure that you're learning those things that you need first, and then those things that you don't need, but you will need, put those off for secondary learning, because your learning curve is steep. There's nothing hard about this industry, but there is a lot to know about this industry. So you will learn a lot quickly. All right, this is what you came for. Let's go to PostalMate. So when you come into your store every morning, you're going to start PostalMate fresh from your computer by clicking on the icon. Once you do that, it will open up. It takes a moment because it's connecting to the internet, to all the carrier servers and what have you. So it takes a moment to launch. Here it comes. And once it has fully launched, then you can open the POS. Now, I want to explain, the POS is the point of sale or the cash register portion of PostalMate. And the cash register portion of PostalMate is the same program as the shipping program, but they can be used independently. They're kind of like, the best way to phrase it is it's like two sides of the same coin, heads and tails. It's the same coin, but it is two different sides. And that's kind of what PostalMate and CashMate are. So once we launch PostalMate here, we can click on the POS button here, or we can click on the POS icon on the screen, and you can open up the POS. CashMate. Those are interchangeable terms, POS and CashMate. POS again stands for point of sale. And once that opens up again, it'll need to give it a minute to connect and everything. And once you've done that, then you can go up to the upper left corner. And let's make sure it's still thinking here. Yeah, here it comes. And you can open register day. So that's the first thing you do in the morning. And you tell CashMate how much starting your cash you're going to start the day with. It might be an even number. I can tell you when I ran my stores, it was never an even number because I would always leave the change, the coins in the till from the night before, and that never worked out to an even number, right? But you're going to enter that amount and just click OK, and then CashMate knows what your starting cash is, and then it'll bring up sales, and at the end of the day, it'll know how much should be in your drawer, including your starting cash. So once we go back to PostalMate, and to get back and forth, we're going to click the ship button here and the POS button here, and see that shakes this back and forth. And you're going to keep these screens open all day long on your workstation. So the first thing we're going to do is ship a package. Now, my PostalMate and your PostalMate are identical. I may have selections made in my PostalMate that are different than yours, but the functions are identical. So if you see something on my PostalMate that you don't see on your PostalMate if you already have your store, it's simply because you have not turned it on yours. So they're available, it's not turned on. There is one exception to that, and it's a label exception, and I'll show you that when we get to that part. So on the main screen, the functions that you're going to use most are front and center. So parcel or document is when you're going to ship on one of your accounts for a customer and you're going to collect money from your customer. That's where we make the bulk of our money in this industry. The next button is drop off with carrier. Now, I'd love to tell you that we ship more here than we get in drop-offs, but the reverse is true. So for every one package you ship on your account to collect money, you're going to probably get 3 or 4 drop-offs. So in a given day, if you have 20 packages that you've shipped, you easily will probably have anywhere between 50 and 80 drop-offs in a really busy store. That's not uncommon. Now, for FedEx, UPS, and DHL, as long as you're in their authorized programs, you do receive compensation for those drop-offs, and those come in a monthly or quarterly check from the carrier. There's even a program for some USPS drop-offs if you're in a franchise to be paid for. Now, let me address the carrier accounts really quickly. So for UPS, FedEx, and DHL, you must have a specific account in order to resell shipping services to the public. So that's something that's new to people in this industry that they usually did not know. They think that, oh, I can just go get an account anywhere and then I can open up a store. And that is not true. UPS, FedEx, and DHL require you to have a specific account in their authorized program before you're allowed to resell to the public. Now, if you're let's say you're a Etsy seller. If you're an Etsy seller and you make little things, cute things, and you sell those, that's not reselling shipping. When you sell those and ship that, you're actually selling the product. You may collect money for the shipping there, but that's not your product. In this industry, shipping is the product. It's a service I get, but it is what we sell. And that's different to the carriers. If you are caught using a non-authorized account in your store, they can, and I've seen them do it, blacklist your store. They'll take away your account and they won't allow any service to your store, delivery or pickup ever again. So do not abuse that rule. It's very important that you have the authorized account. And they don't just willy-nilly hand out authorized accounts. You have to qualify. So you have to have specific things, attributes to your store. It can't be really close to another store that's an authorized, and so on and so forth. So do your due diligence before getting into this industry and make sure that you can get the authorized accounts before you spend money on a store. Okay. And then quick postage is just for that heavy envelope. You know, grandma's several photos going to grandma, and it weighs 3 ounces. And this is where you can actually print a stamp through the Dymo printer with your Indicia account with PostalMate. So that's kind of cool. So we're going to go through, I want you to know that there's other features here, and we'll go through some of these. A freight entry program, a packing program where it estimates the packing or does the packing for you. It tells you it needs this box and this amount of peanuts, this amount of bubble, and here's the charge. A quote, so you can give your customer a quote so they can take that quote away and come back and pay for it later, or do the package later. A receive hold, that's for package receiving or holding a package. And then other activities, and the other activities is kind of fun, but this is where you will tell PostalMate that your carrier is picking up for the day. This is where you can find a package you've previously shipped. And the find package keeps things forever and ever. So if you're buying a store that's been around for 25 years and they've had PostalMate the whole time, you can find packages back 25 years ago. So void shipment, this is where you would void any package prior to a carrier picking up. Time clock if you have employees and you want to keep their time through this, and then just reprinting the last package label. So we're coming back up to the ship function, and we're going to click on parcel or document. And when we do so, we're going to get to, we're going to follow the yellow brick road, okay? Up in the upper left, it's going to tell you what it's looking for. So this is like if you're filling out a label, who's it from? Well, who is the customer? And that's what you're going to choose first. Now, your store database will be over here, and every time you add a new customer, it will go into your store database. You do not share that with anybody else. It is yours, your property. So you can enter a name here and see if it shows up. Of course, if your store is brand new, it won't be there. You'll have to add it. But if you have an existing store, it might be in there. And I'll pick this one and click next. And then the zip code to where the package is going. This is the ship to. And in this case, I'm going to pick, and then that will narrow it down. And I'm going to add a new address so you can see what that looks like. We're going to click here. And it's going to be in this town, and it's going to be to and we're going to go, I'm a horrible typist, I apologize. Okay, and this is called address autocomplete. So you can choose the address here. You might notice, by the way, that there's 2 that look identical except for the zip 4. And I'm going to recommend you choose the one without the zip 4 each time. And there's a reason for that. If the place you're shipping to has apartments or building numbers, it could have more than one zip 4 in that area. And so when you select it without the zip 4, then the apartments or suites will come up and allow you to choose from it. Once you do that and you make sure that this is the correct address and click yes, then it will bring back the correct zip 4 anyway. And in this case, it happened to be the same zip 4, but in some cases it would be different, okay? So this has identified this as a commercial address. Please bear in mind that we get this data through the USPS, through Indicia, and so it can differ from UPS and FedEx. So the rules on whether it's residential or commercial are basically, and this is as close as I can get it because I can't find it written down really anywhere with UPS and FedEx. It is subject to the driver's, his idea of what it is. So if somebody does sleep there or can sleep there, it's a residence. And that means that all home businesses are residences. That also means that any old house that was turned into a business could be a residence. Where it gets really foggy, and I was going to say froggy, but where it gets really foggy is when you have a place that is both a residence and a business. For example, a nursing home. If it's going to grandma at the nursing home, it's a residence. If it's going to the director at the office of the nursing home, it's a business. So it would behoove you to make sure that if it's going to the director, that you put in there, in this case, Colette Tariki, office manager or office director, ABC Nursing Home, in the business field here. So give instructions like that, and that will help that delivering driver to designate it appropriately. You can dispute it with the carriers, but it gets very tedious disputing the little things like that on your bill. And then no address is complete without a phone number to the recipient. If you don't know or can't get the phone number of the receiver, put the phone number of the sender in here, okay? All right. And then if you want to get an email, this is a great idea, not required, but is really nice to have. We'll click OK. And now it's checking with each of the carriers what time in transit is required for this package. We're going to enter the weight. Now this screen could be skipped completely at your workstation if your scale is connected to your computer, which is typical. In my store today, I don't have a scale connected to my computer, so I'm going to manually enter 1 pound. And then this is already packed up by the customer. And here is, and I will tell you, this is the most important screen in PostalMate. This is where you make sure that you're not going to get charged too much by the carrier and that you will collect the correct amount from your customer. So first of all, is it in generic packaging or is it in carrier branded packaging? Okay, that's important. Let me explain to you what carrier branded packaging is first. Let's see here. This is an example of carrier branded packaging. It's the FedEx, DHL, and UPS provided express packaging. And for post office, it's always flat rate, okay? So that would be carrier branded packaging. All other packaging you sell, packaging they brought in, dumpster diving packaging, all of that is considered generic packaging, okay? Then you're going to enter the outer dimensions of that. Do not ever enter what's written on the bottom of the carton. That's actually the inside dimensions, and your outside dimensions will be a ½ inch bigger because each wall of the box is at least a ¼ inch, right? And that ½ inch actually makes it bump up to the next full inch because the carriers round up at a ½ inch. And that can increase your price. And if you're on the cusp of a surcharge, it could be the difference between $50, even $90. So you need to make sure and have it, have that correct. We generally in this industry round up. If you don't want to round up, you don't have to. You can enter the exact amounts, but be aware that packages change shape during transportation. If you have a 12 by 12 by 12, but it's not very full, and somebody places a 60-pound box on top of it, it might become a 14 by 14 by 10. Yeah, things happen. Also, I'm in Arizona where it's really, really dry. And if I'm sending a package to Florida during a storm like they're getting this week, it will actually, the cardboard will actually swell. And just those little increases can be what tips the scanners. And they use a scanner and to measure those. And every package is scanned and every package is weighed. So make sure that you have the correct measurements. So if this was a 12 by 12 by 12, I would probably put in a 13, 13, 13, or 12 and a half, 12 and a half, 12 and a half, or something along those lines. PostalMate knows the rules. So if you were to enter a 12 and a half, it would round it up to 13 because the carrier rounds it up to 13. But if you entered 12 and a quarter, it would round it down because that's what the carrier rules do. So make sure you enter correct dimensions. I'm going to go ahead and put 13, 13, 13 for that 12 cube box. And then there's two other items down here we want to make sure you pay attention to. The first one is article not in a standard container. Once in a blue moon, you will have a package or an item that comes in that they don't want to put in a typical box or bag. Examples: a tire, suitcase, wooden crate, bucket, pail, metal toolbox, Rubbermaid container, rolled up rug. A round tube actually falls into this category. These are articles not in a standard container, and there is an additional fee by many of the carriers for this, and it's not a tiny fee. It ranges, I think, from $14 to $18, so it's a huge fee. So you would need to make sure to check mark this if the item was not in a standard container. Then the next one is padded envelope or soft pack. So if you put it in a padded envelope or a soft envelope or even a Tyvek envelope or something, then you would press on this button here because certain sizes of envelopes have an additional charge with some carriers. So this, you're helping PostalMate to catch any additional charges. Remember, PostalMate will catch all of these surcharges except the ones they can't see. PostalMate can't see what's on your scale. So you've got to help it out in checking these boxes when appropriate. All right, next screen, enter the declared value here. This is where you can make extra money. Declared value coverage, or insurance as it's commonly referred to, is an additional charge. It's kind of like going to McDonald's and saying, would you like fries with that? And it's an extra windfall here. If the customer says, oh, don't worry about it or whatever, don't put in a default value. Leave it 0, because some carriers charge for insurance at a penny. Okay, so always leave this at 0 unless the customer says a certain value. Okay. And then we get to the magic of PostalMate, and this is the PostalMate rate comparison screen, and you can arrange it in different ways. So for me, I've got what I determined are best services, and then I've got my carriers specified here as I want. You can arrange this. I've seen stores do next day, second day, 3-day ground. It's whatever you want, but this is pretty common. And once we do this, you can also decide what carriers and what services will appear on that screen. So for example, here on this one, I've got this package, and I've got post offices right down here, but I don't have media mail. I don't have parcel select ground showing up on this main screen because I don't really want to sell that. I will sell that. If the customer says, hey, it's just all textbooks in there and I need to send it, then I'll go look at media mail. So I can pop over to my US mail button and there's media mail. But I don't want to sell media mail for $4.36 when I could be selling it for $54.18 unless the customer specifically says that's what they need. Now, when you're looking at this, you're going to see up here in red, dimensional weight rated at 14 pounds. That's because the dimensions 13 by 13 by 13 dictate that this is going to go by the size, even though it only weighs 1 pound. So it basically has a hat in it, a top hat in it that weighs 1 pound. But it's a good size box, and the carriers say that this should rate at 14 pounds, even though it weighs only 1. So that's why the price is so high. Watch what happens when I change the size of the box. Let's go to a 6 cube. Wow, all of a sudden UPS, now it's all the way down here. And by the way, the rates you see on my screen are not necessarily what's going to appear on your screen. You get to determine what you're going to charge. And while UPS, for example, in this case is showing up less than FedEx, that will not always be so. It depends on the rates you get and the rates that you have set. So please do not assume that UPS is always less than FedEx, or that mail is always less than either of them. That is not a true story. But once we get to this, we can make our selection here. And so this one is rated at 2 pounds. Now, if for example, this is a 4 pound item, then this dim rating is going to go away. Watch what happens when I click OK. Because now the actual weight exceeds the dimensional weight. Here, you don't need to worry about that right now. As you get involved in this industry, you do need to learn that, but you also need to know that PostalMate has your back on this. It will always figure this out correctly. We send over 19 million packages a year through PostalMate. Believe me, we have to be right on this stuff. So once we take a look at this, you can compare your prices, and we have some secret rates on this screen that I'll share with you. So in the upper right corner, you're going to see an ID, and that just identifies the carrier and service. And then you're going to see an A, C, and D number, and you can set these up to be there or not be there as you wish at your store. The A number is your cost. As long as your PostalMate's updated and you have everything set right, this is going to be what's on your bill. So if I send this UPS ground, I will be billed $12.53 for this box. I'm charging $26.45, and the profit I'm going to make is the D number, $13.92. We have that there handy so you can look and see, especially when you have prices that are pretty close to each other. Like, see this one? I'm only making $9.29. I certainly don't want to sell that one. I certainly want to sell one of these two if they want it to go by ground, okay? So that can be very helpful in determining or helping your customer to determine which service to select. Then the C number is the published rate before any discounts. So that's what the carrier says the rate is prior to your discounts. Once we make a selection, we highlight that and we can click the next button. It's going to ask for anything additional we want on this, like a signature is the most common one. So if you need a signature, you can select it here. And then a summary screen. You can take a discount here. We have 7 ways to take a discount in PostalMate. 6 of them are in the CashMate side. 1 of them is in the shipping PostalMate side. It's right here, this red minus sign. If you wanted to take maybe $2 off, you could do that. You can see that it shows right here. If you changed your mind about it, you can click it again and it goes away, and you can do it again and add it again. So up to you. Entering the contents here is optional unless this line is yellow. When it's yellow, it's required. But you should know at your store, you should make a policy to enter the contents anytime there's a certain value that the customer is insuring it for. So at my store, $300 was the point where my employees were required to enter a value for the content, so that or the content, so I know what was in there in case something got lost or damaged. And then you hit the finish button. When you hit the finish button, we send the data to the carrier. The carrier creates the label and brings it back to PostalMate to print. Now, remember in the beginning, I told you there was one difference between my PostalMate and your PostalMate. This is it. Your label will actually print. Mine's going to show up on the screen for demonstration purposes. There are other options you can also choose to have print out afterwards. I don't recommend doing it, but an example is the ship info label, which will show up here. Here's why I don't recommend printing any additional labels. You can get the labels for free from your carrier. They will give them to you for free, but they are very, very stingy with them. So they might try to send you a roll or 2 at a time. You should be able to get a case, a full case of them, which is I think 36 or something at a time. Always have at least 2 or 3 labels up in a cupboard somewhere where you don't touch them unless it's an emergency. And here's why. If you run out of labels, you can't ship in PostalMate anymore. There's no other way to print it. It's a language that has to print those thermal labels, and that's a requirement from the carriers. So make sure that you always have a stash of those labels. You can also purchase those labels, but they're really expensive. And that's why I say, I don't recommend printing out any additional labels. You're just kind of wasting those, and they are precious. Once you have completed that transaction, you might have something else the customer needs to do. So let's say the customer has a heavy envelope, and you go to Quick Postage, and it's a regular size envelope, not a flat envelope, but a regular size. And you plop it on the scale, and it weighs 2 ounces. And so you have to determine, is it a postcard, is it a letter, or is it a flat? And there's a difference, a specific difference. You might think you already know the difference, but there's rules. The post office is very strict on these rules. So the rules are written, and see this blue guidelines here? If you click that, it tells you what the rules are. So here's how you know what the rules are. So this is actually a letter. We already said that was a letter. We're not going to send it certified or return receipt, and it's not non-machinable. We're going to record that. And when we record that, it's going to print a stamp for you unless we uncheck this. If you have a stamp in the drawer you're going to use, a lot of times we'll have postage stamps that we just sell over the counter. Somebody will come in and say, I just need a stamp. You don't need to go through all this and print. If it's just a one ounce stamp, you can have some forever stamps in your drawer, and you just peel them off and hand it to the customer and charge them whatever you charge them. Your cost on that is 60 cents. You might charge 70 cents, whatever you charge, and be done. In this case, I charged $1.12. The cost on that is 84. I'm going to hit record. It can print that, or if I unchecked this, it would not print it, and I would take the stamp out of my drawer. I might have an 84-cent stamp. And then I close this, and I'm ready to go to the cash register. So to do that, I could certainly click on this button down here. See, it takes me to the cash register. But see this area here? This is called my virtual receipt, and it's empty right now, except for my header. When I go back to the shipping screen and I press this button here, it not only takes me to the cash register, or PostalMate, but it also brings over my transactions to appear on that virtual receipt. And you can see them there. And I have two of them. I have a package, and I have a first class mail. And by the way, your tracking number will not look like this, not all X's. This is because I'm on the UPS test servers. And so this is what it responded with, but yours will have the full tracking number there. And you get to dictate what is on this receipt. So if you want the tracking number, don't want the tracking number, so that's all up to you and in your settings. So once we have this on here, we can add additional things. So let's say that your customer wants to buy a box. Maybe they want several boxes. They're going to clean out their garage and they need several boxes. And they go over and look and they say, oh, I've got all these books I got to get rid of from my office, put out in the garage. I need a 12 cubes, some 12 cubes. And you say, okay, no problem. And 12 boxes, we recommend setting up a little different. We're going to enter SKU and just type in the box size. And there it is. There's your 12 cube. And I said, no, I need 5 of them. Oh, no problem. So you're going to do 5 at enter SKU 12, 12, 12. And there's that. In fact, there's even a quantity discount that I have set up in my PostalMate. You can see that one 12 cube was $5.95, but when they buy 5 or more, I have it set up to be $4.95. But here's the problem. The customer only wanted 5, and now I have 6. I have 5 of them here, and I have 1 here. So I'm going to come up here and highlight that one and just void that single item. There it is. So I've taken that one off. Now I have the correct amount here. And they need some copies. They need 20 copies. So 20 copies at, there we go. And now they're ready to pay. And they go, oh my gosh, I left my wallet in my car. I think it fell under my seat. Can you hang on a minute? No problem, we can hang on a minute. There's a customer behind them that needs to pay for a fax. So you put this on hold, and I'm going to put a reminder, wallet. Click OK, and it goes away. Now we're going to pay for that fax, $2 for a fax. Total, credit card, because everybody pays with a credit card now. Run the credit card, click finish. I can print that receipt. I can email that receipt. I can print and email that receipt. If I print that receipt, I can have it on my standard citizen receipt printer, or occasionally you might have a customer that needs a full 8.5 by 11 printed receipt. That is especially true with a government employee. So your local chamber of commerce or town government, sometimes your school system, they don't allow them to turn in little tiny paper receipts. They require it to be full 8.5 by 11s. So if you want a full 8.5 by 11 paid invoice, you would click on this one and it will go to your full printer. But in this case, we're just going to print a regular receipt. There it is. Again, that was on my screen for demonstration purposes. In your case, it would just print out. And now the lady comes back and she found her wallet under the seat and she's ready to pay for her items. And so you go to the recall function here and you look for the one that says wallet. There it is. And there's all of her things just like they were. And then we're going to say total. And of course, she's going to pay credit card because 95% of your sales are credit card, just letting you know. And so we can do credit card, we can choose the credit card, it doesn't matter. And then we run that credit card and then we finish. Now, again, we can email that. And that email, when we email that receipt, by the way, they usually have it on their phone before they get in their car. It's very, very fast. Now, let's talk for just a moment, quick moment about credit cards. You can use an integrated gateway in PostalMate, or you can use your own system, maybe with your local bank or some favorite you have for your credit cards. It doesn't matter to us what you do. PostalMate does not run credit cards. PostalMate will interface with a company you sign up with for credit cards. So make sure that you're crystal clear on that. I don't want you thinking that PostalMate is a credit card processor. We're not. We're a shipping software for small mail and parcel centers. So please, you will need to decide that if you want an integrated or not integrated. Integrated is really nice. It's a nice, professional, clean look. But credit card processing is a really expensive part of your business. The fees really, they're obnoxious. I hate them. I hate them. And so if you get a really good deal and it's not with an interface with PostalMate, use the deal. It's not that big of a thing to have it separate than together. So it's up to you. One is a little smoother, but the other might save you money. You might get a good deal with one of them that's integrated. So please don't think that you can't get good deals. You can. Okay, so I'm seeing some questions coming up, and I'm going to get to those questions. I just want to go through a few settings real quickly before we get to all the questions. So we have settings in both the shipping side and the cash register. I'll start with the cash register since we're here in CashMate. And most of the settings are up here in tools and options. But I want you to know that you have a bazillion little reports that you can run that really help keep track of your profits in PostalMate. Now, PostalMate is not an accounting software. It's a cash register. Okay, an accounting software would be like QuickBooks. That's an accounting software. So PostMate can interface with QuickBooks Online and send your sales over to QuickBooks Online, and then you could do your company business accounts out of your QuickBooks. But your cash register reports are there, and then right here under options and register settings, I just want to briefly go through so you can see you set up these buttons here. They are right here. Cash register functions, these right here are the ones that are over here. And then the tender types, you set that up how you like, and you can, for whatever you want to do at your store. Receipt settings, remember I told you you get to choose what's on the receipt. That's done right over here. Receipt layout, this is your store header. If your receipt printer supports it, you can have your store logo at the top and it'll look really sharp. This is your shipping disclaimer, and then your trailer. Again, you set all that up. Credit card, these are the credit card companies that we do interface with. The most common ones are Cayenne Genius and SignaPay. So those are the two that we typically recommend. Poll display is not required except in California, I believe, but that's where, you know, when you're at the grocery store and you have that poll and that little readout, that's what that is about. And that's only required if the customer cannot see your screen. And tendering types, your QuickBook interface, your quote setup, and the magical other button. And so we have lots of fun things on the other button. And so I just wanted to share what that looked like with you. And then we're going to pop over to PostalMate side, the shipping side, and show you a similar setup of items. And this customizes amazingly for you. So let's say your store is Alligator Shipping and you're in Florida and you want to have your alligator logo here. We have a store that did that. It had a gator logo here. You can have your alligator logo here instead of PostalMate. That's absolutely fine. And let's say your store color is red. Well, you can have this bottom stripe be red. So that's all customizable. So this becomes basically your store software, and it needs to reflect your business. So we have lots of settings here. We also have lots of reports here, but lots of settings here. And I'm just going to briefly touch a couple of these. This is where you're going to set up your carrier accounts that you're going to get with each of the carriers. This is where you set your rates. Now, again, if you're buying an existing store, it probably already has some rates in there. Please understand your rates before you get into changing your rates. There's no back button. So if you change your rates and then you want to go back, there is no such thing. So always, you're going to be doing a backup every night when you close your PostalMate, and you close it completely every night. It's going to ask you, would you like to do a backup? And you're always going to say yes. That would be the time to play with your rates, because if you don't like what you did, you can restore the backup from when you started. Now, you can't go a whole day and do that, because then you'd lose that whole day's data, right? So PostalMate always writes on top of itself. And then, so this is where you're going to set your rates. These are add-on rates. So if add-ons are things that you might choose to add on to a package like a signature or a COD, then there's surcharge rates. These are the mean and evil charges the carrier puts on your package, whether you want them to or not. These are additional handling, out of area handling, so on and so forth. And then insurance rates or your declared value coverage rates. Again, that's extra money. Your shipping settings, all kinds of fun information in here. And you have all these other settings. And this is, again, highly customizable. The branding right up here, this is where you would change this. Let's say I wanted to change my bottom stripe to red. I'm going to save that and close. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ta-da! Oh, I did that so good. So again, you can customize this how you want. All right. So we're going to get into the questions real quick. So if there's something I have not touched on that you'd like to ask, please do so. And I will do the best I can on answering the questions. Ooh, I don't know the answer to this one, Anne, because I don't think I understand the question. If I bought a commercial zone, I can get residential permit for live to work permit. I'm not sure what that question is. Maybe you could email that to us at support@pcsynergy.com. Can I review this tape again? We on our website, let me pull that up real quick. Guys, our website is really cool. So you go to PostalMate.com and then you're going to click on the first one that's green here, enter PostalMate, and right here, there's a help center. There's also this cool video that kind of gives you an overview. Then there's this help center. And in this help center, this is where you're going to find everything you need to know about PostMate. You can just type in your question here if you want. But here's our videos. Here's our tech notes. Here's previous webinars. And in the previous webinars, you can type in, but I'm just going to type in, let's see what happens. Newbies. There it is. If you want to rewatch a PostMate for Newbies webinar, it's right there. So it won't be this particular one necessarily, but it's right there. And then there are other topics and things that you can look at here. It's really an awesome website, but you can just type in anything you want there. Okay. And then what is this average 1,200 square foot store can expect to make their first year? Oh, I would love to have an answer for that, but I can tell you, let me just give you an example here. I don't know if your store is in Beverly Hills, in a Chicago suburb, in Kansas City, Missouri, or in Podunk, Texas. And I've had stores in places where there are more cows in the neighborhood than people. And you can't expect their result to be anywhere similar to the other three. So it's very, very, very different. She says Florida. Okay, again, Florida is a big place. Look, here's what I can tell you is that it is possible for this to do very, very well in this industry if you follow the yellow brick road. And there is a formula. Number one, you want to have a really good location in the nicest neighborhood you can afford to get into. Okay, this service is a luxury service. Discretionary income is what pays for this. People who are cheap or people who are thrifty or people who are in low incomes can't afford to ship at our stores. That's just reality. I'm not being prejudiced here. I'm trying to do the best I can to help you make money. So location is really important. Visibility is really important. Being in a marketplace where your competition is far enough away from you is really important. Customer service is really important. Pricing is not as important as you think it is. Typically you will have, everybody in this industry has people that will walk in, get a price and walk out and say, that's crazy. But you know what? Not everybody buys their coffee at Starbucks. Okay, some people are just too cheap to do it and won't drop $5 on a cup of coffee. Those are the same people that are not going to come in and ship at your store. That's okay. There's no problem with that. You're there to service those who will. It's a convenience factor, and you have to pay the bills. Now, that's not what you say to your customer, but that's the reality of it. So you need to charge enough to be able to pay your bills and stay in business. I have stores that have been in business for many years easily make their store owners over $100,000. But I have stores that are struggling to make the owner $25,000 a year. It just depends on all these magical factors. Getting into the industry, getting educated, having a beautiful setup in your store. It can't look tacky. If you are buying an existing store, clean it up. Even if it's clean, clean it up. Make it newer looking. Make it shiny and bright. Remember, the more you can make it look like a high-class franchise, the more money you can charge. There's a reason that every time you walk into Starbucks, it's stunningly beautiful. It's because you're paying for the experience. And that's partly true in our industry too. Okay, how do you scan the barcode from a cell phone screen whenever the customer wants to do a drop-off? I think you're talking about the QR code, and we don't have a way yet to do that. That's not a PostalMate problem, okay? There is no way in the industry you're allowed to do that yet. So there's QR codes that the carriers are using for drop-offs. One of them is specific to Amazon and the UPS store, and you're not allowed in that program. Okay, you are not part of that program. You would have to sign up for that program, and they're not allowing you to sign up for that program. So being in that program, the other carriers do have some QR codes. They are working on the technology. Some of them are working on the technology so that to make available to us so that we can include it in PostalMate. When they do get that technology done, we will right away write an interface to that technology so that you can accept it. And I'm specifically talking about FedEx on that one. They are working on that technology. Now, I will confess to you, we've been hearing that for 5 years now that they're working on it, but I do think they are actually working on it right now. What are the income demographics you should be looking for? Upper middle class and higher, okay? Upper middle class and higher. You determine what that is for your area. Any other questions? Oh, there's one. Good morning. How do I view the monthly amounts from the carriers like UPS and FedEx? There's all kinds of reports. I'll show you some of my favorite reports in PostalMate. I think that's what you're talking about. So let's go in the shipping side. My favorite report is shipping profit right there. And I want regular shipments. That is my favorite report to look at for what I charged versus what my cost was for all the packages I shipped. In CashMate, my favorite reports for kind of giving an overview of my store are the cash accounting report and the ultimate report. And I honestly think that it's a good idea to run those. I would run those every single month and put them in a binder with monthly tabs. And then each year, keep them in the same binder so that I go to February and I can say, okay, last year it was this, and turn the page. And this, the year before that it was this, and the year before that it was that. And if you're buying an existing store and they have had PostalMate for some time, you can run those old reports. So, and they'll be accurate. Okay, I'm going to go back one more time to Dolores because she really wants her answers, and I get that. It's just really hard because it's so subjective. She says, I mean, like, what is the ideal area yearly income is what I meant, over 40,000. I would say in most areas, and again, 40,000 in Florida is okay, and 40,000 in New York is not okay. So let's be careful here. In Florida, in most places in Florida, no, I want you to answer your questions. In most places in Florida, I would say upper middle has to be starting at 80,000, don't you think? That's my guess. So look for 80,000 plus. I would say 40,000 is middle to middle low. I mean, when you think about it, minimum, well, my Chick-fil-A is paying almost $20 an hour right now, and I think that comes out to around $40,000 a year. So I would say 80,000 plus would be the area I'd look at. And I've got to tell you, I'm in the Phoenix metro area, so that's very average for the United States area, if you will. I would be building, if I was building a new store, I'd be building it in Scottsdale or North Phoenix, where it's really posh and there's gazillions of $1 million homes where you can't touch a home under about 900,000. That would be the neighborhood I'd want to build a store in. Okay, I have my neighborhood, which is lovely and has lots of $600,000 homes or $500,000, and that's lovely. but I could make more money by driving 20 miles away and being in Postage. So that's where I'm trying to get you to go. I'm not saying you can't do it in your community, but your expectations, you know, if you have a community that's middle class but really needs the service and they'll pay it, then that could be a great location. I just know that generally the more posh the location, the better odds are of doing well. I hope that helps. Okay, again, this webinar is available on our website. Just go to PostalMate for Newbies, just look it up on our website. We had somebody else ask here, just type in Newbies and it will show up. And this is a previously recorded version of the webinar. So, all right, looks like I got your questions. Again, if you have a PostalMate question and you want to ask, and you're already a customer, please send it into PostalMate at, support@postalmate.com. Or support@pcsynergy.com. Sorry, support@pcsynergy.com. And then if you're not yet a customer or you're in the process, Sarah, who is our sales manager, is amazing. She had her own store, I want to say for 28 years, very successful store. So she's a great resource for those of you that have those newbie questions, like, can I make it in this business? And the answer is yes, of course. Why would we have 4,000 stores in this industry if you couldn't make it? But it is true, when you start up any new business, it takes a while to make a profit. And so having the right formula can shorten that time frame. And that's what you're all aiming for, is how do I get to profitable in the quickest way? And so we want to help you as much as we can. We'll give you the information we have. Please don't hold us to the fire on that, though. So, all right. I want to thank you all for attending today and wish you the best of luck. Again, my name is Karen Grant. I do attend all the regionals, all the live training, and I do all the webinars. I say all, let me put a caveat. The last 2 regional events I couldn't attend, and I was really sad because I broke my ankle, but I'm recovering and everything's getting better. And so I'll be at the events next year. Again, thank you very much for joining, and we hope that you have a great day. And thank you for joining the PostalMate family. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.